Hello everybody, this is Havoc back with another tutorial for Crusader Kings III. Today we are going to focus on your realm and your domains with the intent of understanding the distinction between both, whom they belong to, and factors that ultimately contribute to their resource generation. We'll go over some basics, some more advanced mechanics, and strategies to help you maximize the system. Quick word before we begin, if you're watching and have yet to buy the game, check out the Nexus GG link in the description to send you to my customized game store where you can purchase the game and also help support the channel. Let's dive in. Realm organization. To start things off, let's establish the difference between realm and domain. The realm, as any ruler, is the combined lands that they control directly and indirectly through vassals. This could be as small as owning a single county or as large as entire empires. Your realm progresses through a combination of smaller lands into larger titles, with counties being the smallest playable, a number of counties combining into a duchy, a number of duchies combining into a kingdom, and a number of kingdoms combining into an empire. As ruler of your realm, you are in charge of its organization, expansion and defense, the allocation of lands to vassals, and succession, giving you quite a bit of responsibility, especially as you grow into those larger titles. You can see the realm of any character by hovering over the character's portrait, and should they own land, it will highlight their entire realm on the campaign map. Use this to find exactly what lands you own or your vassals own, or to highlight any character's lands you want to interact with. You can also determine the extent of a character's realm when in the character panel, selecting the largest flag under their skills. The largest flag notes not just their most significant title, but, as just stated, their realm, even if they do not own all the titles required of it. The smaller titles below it are the rest of the titles that this character personally owns, be it kingdoms, duchies, or counties. It's important to note that title ownership does not necessarily mean land ownership. Of all titles a character can hold, it is only the county and barony level titles that encompass actual owned land, as we'll get to here in a bit. An interesting tip when playing various nations or when trying to determine the title level of any character's lands. Regardless of the title you have selected, you will always be able to tell what level of title it is on the realm scale by looking right underneath the name. For instance, a chiefdom is a county, a Raj is a duchy, and a sultanate will be a kingdom. It's at the realm level where you get your total income and levies, both from your personal lands and those of your vassals. This is also where you will interact with your direct vassals. Your direct vassals are any characters that own an entire county or larger that consider you their liege. Any characters that run your baronies are not considered direct vassals. Domain organization. Moving on to domains, the domain of a character are the lands that they personally own, which, as I just mentioned, are at the county and sometimes barony level. As a player, you can easily see what counties belong in your domains, as they will have a banner below the primary castle holding. Your counties are broken down into baronies, the smallest form of land title available in the game. Each barony in a county is called a holding, and each county can have anywhere between 2 to 6 holdings. There are 3 types of holdings: castles, cities, and temples. Castles provide levies and fortifications more than taxes. Cities give taxes and a focus on development over levies, and temples provide a mix of taxes and levies with a focus on control. Now, when it comes to your counties and their holding types, there are a few important things to note in terms of who runs them. First, you will always personally own any castle holdings inside your counties, and the capital of your county will always be a castle. It's the capital and any other castle holdings that will need to be taken in order to conquer the entire county. Next, your cities can be held by you personally, although it will incur a penalty as city holders need to be of the Republican government type, of which you cannot currently play as. Every city needs to be run by a mayor who will default to the Republican government type. These mayors will not add to your direct vassal limit as mentioned already due to their single barony holding. Lastly, with temple holdings, their owners are entirely dependent on the theocracy or lay clergy doctrine of the ruling character's religion. Theocracy will require your realm priest to lease the holdings out to you, providing gold and levies. Lay clergy allows non-religious ownership of temple holdings and can therefore be kept or given away. They will also give you taxes and levies. Domain limit. Understanding the organization of your domain will naturally lead us into figuring out how many lands can make up your domain, called domain limit, which can be found at the very top right corner of your screen. This domain limit determines how many holdings you as a character can hold without penalties to income, levies, and vassal opinion. This means that if you have more than one castle in a single county, or you are able to hold temples, each one of those individual holdings you own personally will count towards your domain limit. Your domain limit is affected by a multitude of things, but most dominantly are personal stewardship skill, your succession laws, and the tier of your primary title, although there is one caveat to that. Your spouse's stewardship skill, if high enough, can affect the stewardship skill of your own character. Should this kick in high enough, it is very possible to increase your domain limit if you switch your spouse's task to manage domain. So as either a character playing tall or a character that just wants to increase their domain limit, look for a spouse that has a high stewardship skill to increase that limit. This system means it's also worth focusing on more of the stewardship skill tree as you climb the ranks if you want to hold more land. Using the domain focus will automatically increase your stewardship skill by 3 points, and going down the architect path will not only greatly benefit the building production and effectiveness of your domain, but can straight up increase the limit as you get to divided attention. In the area of domain limit, there have been several questions asked already if you should give away lands to vassals or keep your domain limit at its max. While there are always certain scenarios in which you should rather give land to a vassal, be it to complete their duchy desire if they're on your council, or say you just built a city and you're getting that wrong government penalty, you will definitely always want to keep your maximum domain limit. The reason is that as the ruler of your holdings, you receive 100% of the taxes and levies that those holdings generate. Any lands that you give your vassals, you are receiving an extremely small percentage of anything that they make in the way of taxes and levies, which is why, as a rule of thumb for myself, if I ever conquer another faction and I'm way over my domain limit, I will always give away the holdings that have the lowest yield, as I want to keep the moneymakers for myself since I get every single bit of it. Now, should you win a war or inherit lands, and especially with succession, you will most likely go over your domain limit. If this is the case, click on the county you want to give away, which should be the lowest income one, and select Grant to down at the bottom. This will bring up everyone in your realm that is able to hold land. There's a multitude of different reasons to give land to certain people, so I will leave that up to you, but here are a few options. Give it to a person with a high stewardship skill, give it to family so it stays within your dynasty, or to satisfy a low opinion vassal within your court. Again, lots of reasons outside those, and it's unique to your situation as to how you deal with it. With the very basics of your domain out of the way, let's dig deep into the factors that contribute to their effectiveness with things like development, control, popular opinion, and buildings. Development. We are going to start with development as it's probably one of the most important features to the evolution of your domain. Development is a measure of the advancement and infrastructure present in a county, which is found on the right-hand side of the county overview. The level of development directly influences an increased percentage of levies, taxes, and the supply limit of said county, and they all have very specific rates of increase. For every 1 point in development, your levies will see a 0.5% increase, your taxes will get a 0.5% increase rounded down, and a supply limit increase of 150. So if we take a look at the county of Praha with a development of 13, we can see that the levies increased by 6.5%, which is half. Taxes increased by 6%, which is 0.5% rounded down, and our supply limit for the county has increased by 1,950 or 150 per level. Moving along to development growth, and there are a lot of factors that contribute to it at a monthly rate. Buildings can have a large impact on the growth rate of development, which we'll get to later in the video, but it's still very relevant. Technology, lifestyle-focused traits such as planned cultivism, religious holy sites, events, even the terrain of the county matters in the growth of development. And while all of these are for the most part controllable by you the player, there are two bigger concepts I want to focus on. First is the from neighbors line right at the top. If we shift over to Kaslev and hover over development, we'll see this in action. The from neighbors modifier takes the highest developed county that touches the county you selected, and for every one development higher, it will increase the selected county's growth by 0.1. With Prague's development at 13 and Kaslev's at 8, that means that every single month Kaslev gets a 0.5 boost to development growth, which is pretty massive. This development creep allows for a slow but steady progression throughout your campaign and can create development hubs throughout the map that feed into each other and create some seriously impressive counties with big boosts to levies and taxes. The second concept is a reversal from what I mentioned in my paradox video on domains. In that video, I mentioned that your steward's increased development task was not worth it when they can collect taxes instead. I will 100% admit that I was wrong on that subject. The increase in domain taxes is negligible at best. Instead, I highly recommend you solely focus on either your highest developed county or your capital county and keep every steward you ever have on increasing development of said county. This is a long-term strategy that might not get you immediate gains, but focusing on increasing your development in a high development county will create that hub I mentioned much quicker, increasing not just that county's taxes and levies, but the neighboring counties will greatly benefit from that rapid monthly growth, spreading your development a lot faster than you would otherwise, and ultimately getting you greater gains in taxes than if your steward was just using his collect domain taxes task. Just make sure that your steward always has a high stewardship skill to really reap the benefits. With this mindset, development plays a huge role in building tall. The system really caters to having few but extremely powerful counties, and you could easily sit on 10 or more counties as both your domain and realm without the need for vassals, and just crank on development to fend off anyone who wants to take you over. Control. With the concept of development out of the way, let's take a gander at control. Control is the direct amount of power you hold over a county. Anything under 100 will see a reduced percentage in the amount of levies and taxes that a county contributes to you, which, just like development, has a specific decrease rate, although it's apparent that the game reads control values in the tenths of percent despite not showing it, so the final decrease value may be slightly off. Regardless, control decreases levies at a rate of 0.5 for every 1 point decrease. For taxes, the rate is 1% for every 1 point. It's pretty bad news for your domain counties to have anything under 100 control, as it can be very detrimental to your income with both taxes and levies. Now, control can be a very slow thing to get up and running, with temple buildings, your clergy's abilities, and holy sites lending a pretty small amount towards it every month. There are a lot less factors to it than development, which means you'll definitely need some help to get any low control counties back up to par. The best way to rapidly take the control back of a county is through your marshal. Your marshal's increased control in county task will, obviously, increase the control based primarily on his marshal skill. It can still take years to increase the control of a county up to acceptable levels, and make sure, as with development, that you're only focusing on your own domains, not those of your vassals. Popular opinion. This last county level value is, in my opinion, the least concerning factor in a county, but needs addressed no matter what. Popular opinion is a measure from -100 to 100 of how the county's populace feels towards the character that holds their county. There are a number of factors that affect popular opinion. A ruler with the wrong faith or culture can affect it negatively, while a popular ruler, or one that supports the locals through specific events such as driving out bandits or increasing their autonomy, will see it affect their opinion positively. Should the population become unhappy for long enough, they may be able to start or join a peasant or populace faction, which can easily spread through the entire realm. This effect could ruin smaller empires if not kept in check, but for the most part are easy to destroy, which is why it's the least concerning for myself. The easiest way to control popular opinion is by ensuring the county holder is of the same culture and faith as the population. In newly conquered counties that expand into foreign cultural or religious lands, you may not have the option to place someone that's compatible with the native population. There are a range of ways you can solve this. You might be able to find a guest that has some common ground, hire them, and then give them the county. It's also possible to convert the county to both the religion and the culture of the liege through your realm priest and your steward. Both tend to take a very long time to convert, so if you decide to do it, I would recommend only converting the religion. If the lands you just conquered border several of your own culture, that newly conquered region will eventually convert to your culture anyways, and I really do not recommend taking your steward away from its increased development task if at all possible. Buildings. When you are finally able to construct some buildings, which I have said in past videos should be later in your campaign, not at the start, it can be a bit daunting to figure out what to construct and where. This is especially true if you have a lot of holdings. For starters, there are a certain number of buildings that are available across all holdings, such as the barracks, military camps, and pastoral lands. These buildings will typically raise levies and taxes, with the military building boosting certain men-at-arms units. Having these be built in any holding type does give you flexibility in where you can build, so min-maxing doesn't quite apply to them. But for the most part, terrain and holding type have a heavy influence on what you can build and where. Castles will have buildings that increase their defense, garrison, and capacity, but a castle in hills provides more defense, a larger garrison, and gives an advantage modifier to the defender. A castle in the forest can build forest forts, which provides levies on top of garrisons. Any type of holding on mountains can build a quarry. Those in a forest can construct a logging camp. Farmland gives manor houses that produce a large sum of taxes each month. The list goes on and on, but the point is that terrain does matter greatly to what type of building you can construct, and it is something to be mindful of. Another aspect of buildings is that as they evolve and develop, they give more benefits to your realm. Nearly every building will eventually give you positive modifiers in either control or development, along with increased supply limits or levy reinforcement rate, increased taxes, or just a lot more gold. These upgrades are pretty costly as they level up, so it's definitely a late mid-game to early late game scenario in which you'd see these boosts unless you're playing tall. New to CK3 is the idea of a duchy capital building. These buildings can only be built in the capital of any de jure duchy, which limits their availability across the map. In order to actually build these, you need to personally own the duchy title, and since you can only own 2 duchies without penalties, this limits a player's desire to hoard counties just to build these buildings. Duchy buildings are completely unique, providing much more intense benefits than the regular buildings themselves. You'll need to have certain military innovations researched in order to build most of these duchy buildings, but there are a few that only require gold to construct. One last tip regarding buildings. Start building in your capital, especially if you are using your steward to increase development. This will steadily increase the taxes and levies as we mentioned, which will buff all of your buildings inside of it as well. It's very feasible to see your capital grow to dominate your income and levy contribution. Increasing domains through war. One of the quickest ways to increase both your realm and your personal domains is through war. There are 3 types of casus bellis: claims, de jure, and a holy war. Claims are a personal claim on an entire title, from county all the way up to kingdom. De jure casus bellis are a declaration that certain titles are yours by default because you own the title that they fall under. An important distinction when pressing claims and de jure is whether you will incorporate the lands into your realm or into your domain. If we look at Lyon, we can press our claim on Galicia. If you go into the info box below, you will see that we would gain the title of the Kingdom of Galicia, but King Garcia would become our vassal, meaning we personally would not receive any lands. However, if we changed our objective to the county of Coruna, we see that I will receive the bishopric and city of that county, which means that I gain them personally. So be sure you know exactly what you're getting into in either case. If you don't want the lands because you're maxed out, go for titles where you just get vassals. Needing to increase your domains, go for casus bellis in which you'll gain the domains. County claims under your claims will always result in increasing your domain. When it comes to holy wars, regardless of whether you push the county, the duchy, or the kingdom, you will personally gain all titles with the exception that any of the defender's vassals that follow your religion then become your vassals. Holy wars are a bit of a gamble sometimes, as anyone of the defender's religion can just join against you, and anything above a county holy war requires higher levels of piety to even enact. You will also have to consider that both the culture and religion of the land you just acquired into your domain are different than yours, causing big popular opinion issues which could lead to future peasant rebellions. So just as a heads up, really pay attention to the information at the bottom of whatever war you have selected and make sure it is meeting what you are hoping to achieve, either expanding your realm as a whole or adding to your personal domains. This section is very short only because I'm going to really dig into succession laws as a separate video and I'm not entirely knowledgeable on the subject yet. For this video, I simply want to bring them to your attention as a way to manage your domains and those of your heirs. There are a whole range of succession laws and they cause some very wonky and sometimes messed up breakups of the realm and domains that your heir inherits. Most characters you will play have the male preference succession law in place, meaning that only a male of the family can inherit your titles and your domains. This combined with your partition law type will play a heavy part in who inherits what titles, especially if you have multiple sons when you die. Pay close attention to the information screen under the succession law tab, as they will very clearly define which of your heirs is getting what titles on your death. If you're really desperate to not lose certain titles personally, you can either kill off sons that are not your heir, which is incredibly risky should your actual heir die before you do, or denounce and disinherit other sons so that your heir is the only male that will inherit titles on their succession. Again, I will go deeper into succession as I honestly do not fully understand it myself. I'm not a fan of willingly giving false information. Everything I've said here is about the extent of my depth of knowledge for now, but rest assured when the succession video drops, it'll be from a base of knowledge. If you are watching and can't contribute to that knowledge, I would be immensely grateful for your comments in the comments section. Ladies and gentlemen, I have no doubts that I am missing areas to talk about with your domains and realms, but this is what I would consider the most upfront and relevant information regarding both. If you have more tidbits to drop, just like my succession request, I will always appreciate comments that deepen both my knowledge and those that read your comments. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, I highly recommend giving it a thumbs up, as that helps get this video seen on the YouTube algorithm. Comments help just as greatly, even if to say, I'm helping the algorithm. Be sure to subscribe to the channel as I continue my series of tutorials with Crusader Kings III. Thanks for your time. This is Havoc, and I will see you in the next video.